Hey, Dr. Valerie Rain, back with you today to talk about freeze. Freeze as a category of trauma adaptations, aka prison guards, that is so common, shockingly common in a woman's life. So, this episode is going to be full of surprises. As I hope you've heard some surprising facts from the previous episodes as well. If you've missed them, they're posted here on my feed. I covered the categories of appease, fight, flight before. And before I talk about freeze, I'm going to share a few stories that viewers have shared with me about flight and fight. I was just having a conversation with one of our thrivers who was describing to me that her fight prison guards have shown up in the way that she kept pushing herself to work out harder and harder and harder. You know, the patriarchal war on the woman's body, we internalize it and we push ourselves sometimes to extremes. And even if we don't push ourselves to extremes, that war keeps going on in how we are fighting against ourselves, right? That fight energy. And for her, it led to a condition that could have been life-threatening, a rhabdo, where muscle tissues break down, and that was caused by muscular overexertion, right? When we talk about the costs of the prison guards and how they're showing up, this is really sobering, and understanding that it's not your fault. You're not even making a conscious choice to push yourself, although it's hard to kind of grasp that. What do you mean I'm not making a conscious choice to push myself? Well, from neuroscience, we know that our actions are decided in our subconscious. So yeah, you are not making a conscious choice to push yourself. It is your subconscious that is driving that choice, and the conscious mind is simply rationalizing, yeah, I'm doing this because it makes sense this way and that way. I'm just trying to get in better shape, get stronger. But yeah, if we're bringing that fight energy to our fitness routines, to our routines that are meant to make us stronger and healthier, they can turn toxic and dangerous. Another person I was in conversation with was sharing that, and this, I'm going to talk about flight here for a moment. She was sharing that her business had really slowed down over the course of the pandemic, that her country, her first world country, was in the shutdown. And although the economy was very strong, but she didn't make much money. And her story was that was because of the shutdown. That was because of the pandemic. Now, we have thrivers in the Thriving Circle, our flagship program, who have multiplied their revenue over the course of the past year many times, as many as 8 times the revenue. That was a huge leap. So, and this person who brought in that huge revenue did so in a country where the economy is much weaker too, and the restrictions were strong. And I'm sharing this with you because this person who has the story of something that will get you out of this situation. So, freeze. It's that underlying charge in the nervous system that gets covered up, that gets shut down by the freeze response, right? So it's not like you are calm. There is a lot going on, but then that response gets interrupted, that gets shut down. And it can also show up in your inability to make a decision, right? You go into freeze, you're like this or that, and you're on the fence. you're undecided. Let me know in the comments if this resonates. This is also a freeze response when you can't make up your mind, and it can be as subtle as looking at the menu and like, I don't know what I want, and you keep looking at the menu and you kind of glaze over, right? It's such a common experience. Like, Dr. Valerie, really? This is a stress response? This is a stress response because we are traumatically conditioned as women to not make mistakes. What if I make a mistake? What if I order something wrong? What if it's not something I will like? What if it's something it's not good for me? Blah, blah, blah. What if there's something better on the menu? It's a simple example. It may sound silly, but it is an example where we can go into freeze around those little decisions, because the conditioning around making a mistake is so strong. So underneath freeze, we can be feeling anxious, we can be feeling charged, and we can have this thought process of second guessing ourselves and going back and forth. And the mind can be moving very fast, but we're not able to actually make a choice, make a decision, and move forward one way or another. There's also an aspect of freeze that we can call functional freeze. Functional freeze, like, functional alcoholic, functional addict, functional freeze. And I'm not using it in any kind of a derogatory way. God, no. So freeze is a normal stress response. It's a normal trauma reaction. We all have that. If you didn't have that, then I would be worried, okay? If that was completely missing from your system, I would be really, really concerned. If you have it, you're good. The issue is that sometimes it comes up in situations, or is present in situations when it's really not called for, because it's being triggered by old trauma, by intergenerational trauma, by patriarchy stress disorder. And it's really not called for. You're not actually in danger, but your subconscious is interpreting the situation as dangerous. So I'll give you an example of functional freeze. Is really going through life feeling a little disconnected, maybe from your full spectrum of your emotions, from the full spectrum of your pleasure, from the full spectrum of your desires, from your authentic expression, from your connection with yourself, from your loved ones. And it can be really subtle and hard to pinpoint, because, hey, if you're going through life in this functional freeze, and I'm raising my hand because I spent most of my life in functional freeze, and so have practically all of our thrivers, but they didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that at the time. If you had asked me, Valerie, are you happy? I would have said, of course, my life is good. And I kept getting compliments from others. Oh, you're so serene, you're so calm. I was teaching yoga and mindfulness, and that suited me, right? And I had no idea that I was actually checked out. I was checked out. I was not even in my body. I was in functional freeze. I was working all the time. I was producing, but I was not in touch with my depths. So deep down inside, I was not happy. I was not unhappy. I just didn't fucking feel. I didn't feel a whole lot, but I didn't know that. And that is a very tricky thing. How do we know what we don't know? It just feels normal. But I'm going to propose this to you. If your life is not exactly aligned with your deepest authentic desires, if you don't exactly feel elated and super comfortable in your skin, if that is not your regular experience, then maybe there is a degree of freeze present in your system. I'm going to give you another example from one of our thrivers. Her name is Erin, and you can watch her story if you go to the last link in my bio that has to do with inspiration, right? On the journey of healing PSD. So Erin so beautifully shared about her discovering that she was living in a functional freeze, which also she did not know. What she knew was that she was getting compliments left and right for being poised, for being professional, for being polished, for being patriarchy perfect in a sense, right? Having a patriarchy perfect body, being a patriarchy perfect worker. She was an attorney and a patriarchy perfect parent. She was doing everything for her kids, right? And what people didn't know, and she didn't realize at the time, was that she was shut down. And her sex life, she described that with her husband at the time, orgasms on command, right? While being disconnected from her deep embodied experience. And she did not begin discovering that until she got into this work. And this work for me as well, I only started discovering how disconnected I had been when I started feeling connected again. So that's the thing, like we don't know what we don't know. So I started feeling alive. I started feeling excited and elated and super great in my own skin. I wasn't checked out and in my head the whole time worrying about, oh my gosh, how do I look? What would people think? Can I say that? Oh, am I going to make a mistake? I better not do anything. I better not say anything. Gosh, I spent my whole life in functional freeze. I held back. I bit my tongue. Oh my gosh, the things I did not say, the things that I did not do, places I did not go. It's like the opposite of that Dr. Seuss poem. All the places you'll go, right? The places I didn't go, the things I didn't do, the things I didn't feel and experience, it didn't get to play. But it's not too late. It's not too late. So now on this journey of reclaiming my full ability to be and not be hijacked by freeze, but feel comfortable and safe in my skin. Oh my gosh, that range keeps expanding of what I get to say, what I get to do, how I get to play, who I get to be. And I am here to be surprised. Like every day, I am open to be surprised. I am open to being surprised and discovering just how good can it get. And our thrivers are discovering this on this journey. We're getting these stories from them every day, and you can watch some at the last link of my bio and see for yourself and see what gets stirred up for you, what desires get stirred up for you. And if you already know that you're fucking done under feeling, under expressing, under living your life, under earning, under feeling appreciated and appreciating yourself, like under experiencing your own beauty, your own genius. Fuck that. If you already know that you are fucking done with being in the invisible in the prison of PSD, patriarchy, stress disorder, and other traumas, if you are ready to taste the fullness of your life, to taste every delicious dish on the menu and not just study the menu, not just lick the menu because it's so hard to even feel right. And thank you so much for the hearts, for the love, and so good to see you, Melissa. So yeah, if you are ready for the full experience of your life, if you're ready to be surprised by who you actually are, not who you've been trained to be through all of these prison guards, trauma defenses, right? The mask of appease, the reactions of fight, that war against yourself, flight, never fully showing up, never taking chances to the fullest, not even seeing the possibilities that are there in front of you, not even perceiving that they're possible, that it's possible for you to make lots of money, that it's possible for you to feel amazing every day. And of course, freeze. Gosh, if you are sick and tired of being bound by these experiences and you are ready to experience the fullness of your life, the first link in my bio has an amazing opportunity for you to sit down with one of our Thriving Journey Guides who is an alum of the Thriving Circle, who've worked with us for at least a year, who've had phenomenal jailbreaks, breakthroughs in their lives, phenomenal transformations, and they can sit there with you and be with the bigness of your desires. They can help you really put on those X-ray vision goggles and see the invisible, see how the prison guards operate in your own life, in your subconscious. What are the costs of their operation? And the costs are staggering, I assure you. But they're not going to leave you hanging. They're going to map out the journey to freedom with you. And if it feels aligned for you to receive our support, further support on this journey, by working with us in our programs, we will be delighted to have you. The Thriving Circle is enrolling right now. We're welcoming phenomenal, world-changing women. I pinch myself that I get to play with these phenomenal women, because growing up, I was the ugly duckling. That was my story. I didn't fit in with the other ducks, and I had no idea that there were swans out there and that I was one of them. And that is the experience of women when they find our community, the community of swans who finally have their peers around them, who have the capacity to reflect their bigness to them, to be with their wholeness, with their desires, who have the capacity and no judgment around witnessing their prison guards and working with them together. So that's what we're up to in the Thriving Circle. The first link in my bio is your next step. If this is resonating for you, our Thriving Journey Guides are ready, and we are starting this journey this month. So there's not a whole lot of time left. If this feels urgent and important to you, do yourself a huge favor and take that next step. You may not know what you're taking this next step toward, because like I didn't know what would become possible in my life, like our Thrivers didn't know what would become possible in their lives, as they share in their stories. Last link in my bio. But you may know what you're taking this step away from. If you're sick and tired of being bound by these prison guards in the invisible in the prison, then that is reason enough to get support. One of the prison guards that has to do with difficulty receiving support, right? We talked about that energy behind the strong woman archetype that has been created by patriarchal conditioning, that is completely falsely glorified, that is a way to burn out and is a way to underachieve forever. Because if you're operating in a silo, if you're operating by yourself, and if the story is, well, I can do it myself, I can figure this out myself, well, you are brilliant. If you could have figured that out yourself, you would have figured that out yourself a long time ago. I have no doubt that you would have. It's that I can't figure that out myself either, even though I teach this work and I do this work. But like a surgeon who do not operate on themselves, I don't operate on myself either. This work requires witnessing in a community. This work requires others pointing out what is hiding in our own blind spots. So I would never do this work by myself. It's counterproductive and ridiculous, and I'm no longer buying into this myth of the strong woman, that myth that ended me up in the emergency room, the story that I start my book with, where I drove myself. By the way, when the left side of my body became paralyzed, I still had the right side of my body operational. And once they finished scanning me up and down in the ER, I looked at the clock and I saw that I could still make my evening client appointments. So that's exactly what I did. So that was my life. That was my life of a strong woman. Not anymore. Now I have a life of a thriving woman, a happy woman. Do I have a lot of strength? Hell yes. I have something even better. I have a lot of power, and that power goes hand in hand with my pleasure, my ability to feel amazing, my deep, vulnerable connections with others. And that just keeps on growing and expanding. And that's why we created this community in the Thriving Circle. And I hope that you explore what that would feel like to have that support around you. So the first link in my bio will help you schedule your one-on-one conversation with a Thriving Journey Guide and feel into where your path takes you from there. And I will be back with you tomorrow talking about the prison guards on the spectrum of shutdown. Again, I promise that it will be surprising, and I look forward to hearing your questions and comments. And thank you so much for all the DMs and stories that you shared with me about the prison guards that I talked about in the previous videos of this series. See you tomorrow.